A telephone rings and message shows up on the screen, as a discussion happens among Trinity and Code, two free people. A table of irregular green numbers are being filtered and individual numbers chose, making a progression of digits much the same as a customary telephone number, as though a code is being translated or a call is being followed. Trinity examines some obscure individual. Figure insults Trinity, recommending she appreciates watching him yet they should kill him. That's what Trinity counters. Morpheus says he might be the one. Similarly, as a number being chosen cautions Trinity that somebody might be following their call. She closes the call. In the heart of the city hotel, armed police officers march through a dim, dilapidated hallway as their flashlight beam bounces just in front of them. They enter room 303, break down the door, and see a black-clad woman standing away from them. This is Trinity. At their request, she removes her hands from the laptop she's using. Outside the inn, a vehicle drives up and three specialists show up in conveniently squeezed dark suits. They are Specialist Smith, Specialist Brown, and Specialist Jones. Specialist Smith and the managing police lieutenant contend. Specialist Smith scolds the cop that they were provided explicit orders to contact the specialists first, for their assurance. The lieutenant excuses this and says that they can deal with one young lady, and that he has 2 units that are bringing her down at that exact instant. Specialist Smith answers, "No, Lieutenant. Your men are now dead." Inside, Trinity effectively overcomes the 6 cops shipped off catch her, utilizing battling and avoidance methods that appear to oppose gravity. She calls Morpheus, telling him that the line has been followed, however she doesn't have any idea how. Morpheus illuminates her that she should come to another exit, and that specialists are making a beeline for her. A furious house-stop pursuit follows with Trinity and a specialist jumping inconceivably, starting with one structure then onto the next, surprising the cops' abandon. Trinity takes a considering bouncing across a rear entryway and through a little window. She has quickly lost her followers and comes to a public telephone corner on the road level. The telephone starts to ring. As she moves toward it, a dump truck, driven by Specialist Smith, lurches towards the telephone stall. Trinity makes a frantic scramble to the telephone, getting it only minutes before the truck crushes the stall into a block facade. The 3 specialists rejoin at the front of the truck. There is no body in the destruction. She got out, one says. Different says, the source is genuine. We have the name of their next target, says different, he is Neo. Thomas Anderson, otherwise known as Neo, a programmer with thick dark hair and a dull appearance, is sleeping at his screen. Sees about a manhunt for a man named Morpheus look across his screen as he rests. Unexpectedly, Neo's screen goes clear and a progression of instant messages show up. Wake up, Neo. The grid has you. Follow the white bunny. Then, the message says, thump, thump, Neo. Similarly, as he understands it, a thump comes at the entryway of his loft, 101. It's a gathering of ravers and Neo gives them a booty circle he has emitted in a duplicate of simulacra and reenactment. The lead raver requests that he go along with them and Neo disputes until he sees the tattoo of a little white bunny on the shoulder of an enticing young lady in the gathering. At a rave bar, Neo remains solitary and standoffish as the gathering he's with party. Trinity approaches him and presents herself. Neo perceives her name. She was a renowned programmer and had broken the IRS dataset. She lets him know that he is in extraordinary peril, that they are watching him, and that she realizes that he is looking for replies, especially to the main question of all, what is the lattice? The beating music of the bar gives way to the monotonous blast of Neo's morning timer. It's 9:18 and he's behind schedule for work. At his position at Metacortex, a main programming organization housed in a dismal skyscraper, Neo is criticized by his manager for generally disliking authority, for believing he's unique. Neo pays attention to his chief, yet his consideration is on the people cleaning the window of the workplace. Back at his distressing workspace, Neo gets a conveyance as Thomas Anderson. After opening the bundle, he finds a cell phone which promptly rings. On the opposite end is Morpheus, who illuminates Neo that they've both used up all available time and that they are coming for him. Morpheus advises him to gradually gaze upward, close to the lift. Specialists Smith, Jones, and Brown are there, clearly searching for him, as a lady focuses towards Neo's solid shape. Morpheus attempts to direct Neo out of the structure, however, when he is told to get on a platform and take it to the rooftop, Neo oddballs Morpheus' recommendation, permitting himself to be taken by the specialists. The specialists define Neo in the scrutinizing chamber. They have been watching him for some time. Neo, a PC programmer, at legitimate fault for all intents and purposes. Each PC offense we have a rule for, has a double existence. Thomas A. Anderson, a computer programmer for a metacortex, is the first. In return for pardon, Specialist Smith offers him the potential chance to aid the catch of the dreaded psychological militant known as Morpheus. Neo gives them the finger and requests his call. Mr. Smith asks what benefit is a call on the off chance that he cannot talk. Neo finds that his lips have intertwined. Overreacted, he is tossed on the cross-examination table by the specialists and they embed a shrimp-like test, a bug, in his stomach, entering through his navel. Neo stirs with a beginning in his own bed, expecting it has all been a terrible dream. His telephone rings and Morpheus is on the other line. He tells Neo that the line is tapped, yet they've underrated his significance. Morpheus tells Neo he is the one and to meet him at the Adams St. Span. There he is gotten by Trinity and two others in a vehicle. They all wear dark plastic and cowhide. A lady in the front seat, Switch, unexpectedly directs a weapon at him and tells him to remove his shirt. Trinity lets him know it's for their common security and that he needs to trust her. He removes his shirt and she utilizes a gadget to eliminate the test that Neo accepted had been essential for a bad dream. Trinity tosses the bug out into the street where it gradually goes dim in the downpour. Neo is taken to Morpheus by Trinity. Morpheus wonders if Neo feels like Alice in Wonderland, going down the rabbit hole, after explaining that he has been looking for Neo his entire life. He explains to Neo that they are a part of the Matrix, a deceptive reality created by humanity to conceal the truth. Everyone in the world is actually a slave who was born into servitude. Morpheus extends 2 tablets. A blue tablet is in his left palm. Neo will wake up in his bed and believe whatever you want to believe, if he accepts it. However, you stay in Wonderland and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes, if he swallows the red pill in Morpheus's right palm. Neo swallows the poison. As the remainder of Morpheus' team lashes him into a seat, Neo is informed that pill he took is essential for a follow program, to disturb his feedback/yield transporter signal, so they can pinpoint him. Neo glances at a broke mirror put close to him which supernaturally fixes itself. Neo contacts the surface and the silver starts to crawl over his skin, inundating him as Morpheus group endeavor to find something on the screens around them. The silver liquid covers him totally, drops down his throat and he passes out. He stirs inside a pinkish/purple undeveloped unit, stretching out from the side of a gigantic section, a piece of an enormous power plant. He is smooth and bare, with thick dark cylinders winding down his throat, connected to the rear of his skull, his spine, and attacking the greater part of the remainder of his body. He finds his unit is open and that he is encircled by many pinnacles of cases very much like his, all loaded up with bodies. Unexpectedly a threatening, drifting medical caretaker robot snatches him by the throat. The link embedded into the foundation of his skull unexpectedly segregates. The other cylinders pop off his appendages and Neo is flushed down a cylinder into an underground pool of disgusting water. Similarly, as he's going to suffocate in the garbage, an air cushion vehicle shows up above him, tangles him and takes him into its freight narrows. Once more, Neo ends up encompassed by Morpheus' team, yet they are dressed in an unexpected way, in basic weave articles of clothing. Not long before Neo passes out, Morpheus shares with him, "Welcome to this present reality." Neo floats all through awareness. At a certain point he inquires, "Am I dead?" "A long way from it," answers Morpheus. Again he wakes, his body a pincushion of needle therapy. "For what reason do my eyes hurt?" he inquires. "You've never utilized them," Morpheus answers. Neo at long last wakes, completely dressed, with a short shock of hair on his head. He eliminates a connector that is sunk profound into his arm and reaches to find the enormous attachment at the rear of his neck when Morpheus goes into the room. "What is this spot?" Neo inquires. "The more significant inquiry is when," says Morpheus, "you accept it is the year 1999, when as a matter of fact it is nearer to the year 2199. Morpheus proceeds to say that they truly don't have the foggiest idea when it is. He gives Neo a visit through his boat, the Nebuchadnezzar. They pass a plaque expressing it was worked in 2069, an old, beaten air cushion vehicle. Neo is acquainted with Morpheus' team including Trinity, APOC, a man with long, streaming dark hair, Switch, Code, two sturdy siblings, Tank and Dozer, and a youthful, slender man named Mouse. Morpheus cuts to the chase. "You needed to be familiar with the lattice," he says, guiding him to a seat. Neo plunks down in it and Trinity lashes him in. A long test is embedded into the attachment at the rear of Neo's skull. Neo wakes in a universe of all white. He is in the build, a stacking stage, that Morpheus and his group used to plan recently liberated people to manage the lattice world. Gone are the attachments in Neo's arms and neck and his hair is filled in. Morpheus lets him that know he encountering of himself is the leftover mental self-view, the psychological projection of your advanced self, and offers him to sit while he makes sense of reality. "This," he says, showing a picture of a cutting-edge city, "is the world that you know. A thing that truly exists, just as a feature of a brain, intelligent reproduction that we call the framework." Morpheus then shows Neo the world as it really exists today, a scarred, forsaken vacancy with roasted, deserted structures, dark earth, and a covered sky. Morpheus proceeds to say that, sooner or later in the mid-21st century humanity was all unified in festival as we conceived an offspring, to man-made brainpower, solitary cognizance that birthed a whole race of machines. Somebody began a conflict, and nobody knows who. However, it was realized that it was humanity who rubbed out the sky, endeavoring to deny the machines of the sunlight-based power they expected to work. Rather, the machines went to people as a power source, oppressing them like Neo had been before he was liberated. Morpheus proceeds to make sense of that a human's body gives more power than a 120-volt battery and over 25 kBTUs in body heat. Morpheus shows Neo fields where machines develop people, interfacing them to their outlets, hiding them in their units, and taking care of them with the condensed stays of other individuals. "The grid," says Morpheus, "is a PC-produced fantasy land made to monitor us, to turn us into a simple power source, into copper-top batteries." Neo vehemently denies this revelation, demanding to be freed from the construct. He is sitting in the hovercraft's chair once more. He struggles to escape this terrible reality as the crew removes the spike from the back of his skull, but ultimately passes out and throws up on the ground. Morpheus is next to Neo when he first wakes up in his bunk. "How can I possibly go back?" Neo queries. "No," Morpheus responds. Morpheus apologizes to Neo for breaking a fundamental rule: people aren't pulled out of their simulacra after a certain age. However, Morpheus explains that he had to bring Neo out. A guy was born inside the Matrix at the time of its creation and has the ability to design his own reality. This individual freed Morpheus and the others that he would come back in a different form, according to the Oracle's prediction at his death. And that the Matrix would be destroyed if the One made a comeback. Humanity will continue to live in complacency inside the Matrix as long as it exists, and there will never be true freedom in the world. Morpheus explains, I did what I did because I believe that hunt is done. The following day Neo begins his preparation. Tank is his administrator. Tank and his sibling Dozer are 100% unadulterated antiquated, local human. Brought into the world in reality, a veritable offspring of Zion. Zion, Tank makes sense of, is the last human city, covered somewhere down in the earth, profoundly close, for warmth. Tank lashes Neo back into the Jackin seat, misses a few primer projects and loads him with battle preparing, beginning with Jiu-Jitsu. At the point when Tank hits load, Neo is stunned by the power of the information filling him. I think he prefers it, says Tank, need some more. Damnation yes, answers Neo. Neo is taken care of a progression of hand-to-hand fighting methods including Kempo, Judo, tanked boxing and Kung Fu. Morpheus and Tank are astonished at Neo's capacity to ingest data, yet Morpheus needs to test Neo. Morpheus and Neo substitute a fighting system. The program has rules similar to gravity. Be that as it may, as in numerous PC programs, a few guidelines can be twisted while others can be broken. Morpheus offers Neo to hit him, on the off chance that he can. They battle with Neo stunningly going after yet Morpheus effectively repelling and quelling him. The remainder of the group accumulates around the screens to watch the battle. Morpheus winds up kicking Neo into a pillar, making sense of for him that the explanation he has beaten him doesn't have anything to do with muscles or reality. Once more, they fight. What are you hanging tight for? Morpheus asks him. You're quicker than this. Neo at last brings a punch close to his educator's face. Neo quits, telling Morpheus, I understand what you're attempting to do. Morpheus lets him know he's simply attempting to see him out, and that Neo should step through it. There is a jump software loaded. On one of the many tall structures in a typical metropolitan skyline, both men are now standing. Neo is instructed by Morpheus to release his consciousness as he effortlessly but impossibly jumps from one skyscraper to the next. Neo tremblingly tries to follow him but fails to jump, landing on the ground below. With blood in his mouth, Neo awakens in the Nebuchadnezzar once more. He says, I believed it wasn't real. Morpheus responds, it's just real in your imagination. So, if you pass away in the Matrix, you pass away here. The very real danger encountered in the simulation is emphasized by Morpheus' statement that the body cannot live without the mind. Later, Trinity serves Neo dinner while he is sound asleep. Cypher remarking outside his door that Trinity never brought him dinner. If Morpheus believes Neo is the one, why hasn't he brought him to see the Oracle yet? He queries Trinity. When he's prepared, Trinity swears he'll take the man. Morpheus and Neo are strolling down a standard city road in what has all the earmarks of being the framework. Morpheus makes sense of that the grid is a framework and that the framework is their foe. Every one individuals that occupy it, individuals they are attempting to free, are important for that framework. Some are so inactive, so subject to the grid that they can never be free. Neo notification a staggering young lady in a red dress. Are you paying attention to me? Asks Morpheus. He asks Neo to take a gander at the young lady once more. Neo goes to confront Specialist Smith, pointing a firearm directly at his head. Morpheus stops the reproduction, which has quite recently been made to seem to be the lattice. Neo asks what the specialists are. Aware projects, says Morpheus, that can move all through any product permanently set up for their framework, implying that they can assume control over anybody in the lattice program. Inside the lattice, Morpheus says, they are everybody and they are nobody. Hence Morpheus and his group endure the specialists by running from them and stowing away from the specialists despite the fact that they are watching every one of the entryways. They are holding all the keys and eventually, somebody must battle them. However, nobody who has at any point confronted a specialist has made do, all have passed on. In any case, Morpheus is sure that in light of the fact that the specialists live in a universe of decides that they can never be serious areas of strength for as, be really quick. What are you attempting to tell me, asks Neo, that I can avoid disasters? When you're prepared, Morpheus says, you will not need to. All of a sudden Morpheus gets a call. We experience difficulty, Code says on the other line. The Nebuchadnezzar is on alert. They see the holographic picture of a squiddy, a pursuit and obliterate sentinel, which is following right after them. They put the boat down in an immense sewer framework and mood killer the power. Tank remains good to go switch of an EMP, electro-attractive heartbeat, the main weapon man has against the machines in reality. Two squid guys look for the boat, the group can see them, however they continue on. Neo surprises Code, who is working at a PC console gushing with green code. Figure offers Neo a beverage and says that he knows what Neo is thinking, why, goodness for what reason didn't I take the blue pill? Neo snickers yet is disrupted. Figure asks Neo assuming Morpheus has told him for what reason he's here. Neo gestures. What a brain work, says Code, so you're here to save the world. Figure is presently in an extravagant cafe with Specialist Smith in the network. Specialist Smith inquires as to whether they have an arrangement. Figure cuts up a succulent steak and ruminates that he realizes the steak is simply the reenactment. Let his mind know that it is flavorful and delicious, however following 9 years he has found that obliviousness is euphoria. He makes an agreement for the machines to reinsert his body into a power plant, reinsert him into the grid, and he'll help the specialists. He needs to be rich and strong, an entertainer, perhaps. Smith says he needs access codes to the centralized computer in Zion. Figure says he can't do that, however that he can get him the one who does, meaning Morpheus. In the meantime, inside the Nebuchadnezzar's little lounge area in reality, the remainder of the group is attempting to force down the oats slop that they have as food. Mouse muses on the missteps the machines might have made attempting to get sensations right, similar to the flavor of chicken. Since they didn't have any idea what it possessed a flavor like, they let all that taste like it. Morpheus interferes with the feast, declaring that he's taking Neo to see the prophet. Morpheus, Trinity, Neo, Apiosi, Switch, Mouse and Code are jacked into the grid. As they leave a stockroom, Code subtly tosses his phone into the trash. On the vehicle ride to the prophet, Neo inquires as to whether she has seen the prophet. Trinity says that she has, yet when she's asked exactly everything she was said to by the prophet, she won't reply. The prophet, Morpheus makes sense of, has been with them starting from the start of the obstruction. She is the person who made the prediction of the one and that Morpheus would be the one to track down him. She can help Neo find the way, he says. He enters the loft of the prophet. Inside are different possibilities, a mother figure and various kids. One youngster suspends blocks, one peruses Asian writing, another is playing chess. One bare youngster is twisting spoons. He gives one spoon to Neo and says, "Don't attempt to twist the spoon, that is incomprehensible. All things considered, just attempt to understand the truth, that there is no spoon." Neo curves the spoon as he's brought in to see the prophet. The prophet is baking treats. She measures Neo up and finds out if he assumes he is the one. Neo concedes that he doesn't have the foggiest idea and the prophet doesn't illuminate him. Neo grins and the prophet asks him what is entertaining. Neo concedes that Morpheus had nearly persuaded him that he was the one. She acknowledges this and predictions that Morpheus has confidence in Neo such a lot of that he intends to forfeit himself. She tells Neo that possibly he or Morpheus will kick the bucket, and that Neo will have the ability to pick which one it will be. She then, at that point, offers him a treat and commitments him that he will feel fine when he's finished eating it. As the group gets back to their jack point, many floors up in an old inn, Tank, in the control room, sees something odd. In the interim, Neo, strolling up the steps, sees what gives off an impression of being a similar feline cross a room 2 times. "This feels familiar," he says, which certainly stands out of Trinity and Morpheus. This feels familiar, they clear up for him, is an error in the framework. It happens when they reset the PC boundaries. Outside, the telephone line is cut. Mouse rushes to a window which has now been bricked in. They are caught. Mouse gets 2 automatic weapons, yet he's no counterpart for the police coming into the room. He's filled with shots. Back on the Nebuchadnezzar, the genuine Mouse sprays blood from his mouth and bites the dust in the seat. More police and specialists stream into the lower part of the lodging. Morpheus has Tank find a format of the structure they're in, finding the super wet wall. The specialists show up on the floor they're on, finding a coat that Code has abandoned. They just find an opening in the washroom wall. In the interim, the team is moving down the pipes of the wet wall. Yet again, as the police approach, Code sniffles, parting with them. The police open fire. The team, including Neo, start to fire back. A specialist assumes control over the group of one of the cops, ventures into the wall, and gets Neo by the neck. Morpheus, who is above Neo in the walls, gets through the wall and terrains on the specialist, hollering to Trinity to get Neo out of the structure. A savage fight between Specialist Smith and Morpheus closes with Morpheus face down on the tile. Specialist Smith sends the police unit in to beat him with their stick. Figure gets back to the Nebuchadnezzar before Trinity, Neo, Switch and APOC. As Tank endeavors to bring the others back, Code assaults him from behind with an electronic weapon. Dozer endeavors to handle Code, however Code shocks him also. Trinity endeavors to call Tank, however Code removes the headset from the smoking remaining parts of Tank and replies. As Code converses with Trinity inside the network, he hangs over the still type of Trinity in the air cushion vehicle. Figure relates the things he detests about this present reality, the conflict, the chili, the goop they need to eat, however most particularly Morpheus and his convictions. He deceived us, Trinity. Figure reassesses out of the rear of Apex's head, and APOC tumbles down dead in the lattice. Figure then, at that point, moves to Switch and as she disliked this. In the network, Code kills her on the boat. She tumbles down dead before Trinity and Neo. Figure continues on toward Neo's prostrate structure, saying that assuming Neo is the one, a marvel will keep Code from killing him. On the off chance that he's dead, how might he be the one, he inquiries. Inquiring as to whether she thinks Neo is the one, he continues to mess with her. Indeed, she answers. In spite of the fact that Tank is as yet alive and holding the weapon that Code had utilized on him, Code cries back, "No," in shock. With the electrical apparatus, Tank fries Code. Trinity discovers that Dozer is dead when Tank gets back with her. In the meantime, Specialist Smith, a plate of torment instruments close to him, wonders about the excellence of the lattice as he looks out at the city surrounding them. He illuminates Morpheus, who is attached to a seat, that the principal grid was planned as an ideal world, designed to satisfy everybody. It was a fiasco, says Specialist Smith. Individuals wouldn't acknowledge the program and whole harvests were lost. Some accepted, proceeds with Smith, that we missing the mark on programming language to depict your ideal world. In any case, that's what I accept. As an animal groups, people characterized their existence through hopelessness and languishing. The ideal world was a fantasy that your crude frontal cortex continued to attempt to awaken from. Which is the reason the grid was updated. Specialist Smith looks at people to dinosaurs and that advancement is grabbing hold. Another specialist enters and transfers that there might be an issue. Back on the air cushion vehicle, the shivering type of Morpheus double-crosses the torment he's being placed through by the specialists in the network. Tank understands that they're attempting to get the codes to the centralized servers of Zion's PCs, each boat's chief knows them. Since a break of Zion's protections would imply that the final remnants of humanity would be cleared out, Tank says their main decision is to turn off Morpheus, really killing him. Back in the network, the specialists cycle their best course of action. Assuming Code is dead, They derive that the leftover people on the boat will end Morpheus. They choose to adhere to their unique arrangement and to convey the sentinels. Tank performing adds up to last ceremonies for Morpheus, laying one hand on his head as his different moves to the rear of his skull to eliminate the jack. Similarly, as he's going to haul it out, Neo stops him. He understands that the prophet was correct. He presently needs to pursue the decision to save himself or to save Morpheus. His decision is to head once again into the grid. Trinity dismisses the thought. Morpheus surrendered himself so that Neo could be saved since he is the one. "I'm not the one, Trinity," Neo says, handing off how he might interpret the conversation with the prophet. She didn't edify him concerning whether he was the guaranteed savior. Also, since Morpheus was able to forfeit himself, Neo realizes that he should do that equivalent. Tank calls it self-destruction. It's a tactical structure with specialists inside. Neo says he just realizes that he can bring Morpheus out. Trinity chooses to accompany him, dissuading Neo that he will require her assistance and she's the positioning official on the boat. "Tank," she says, "load us up." In the interim, Specialist Smith keeps on offering his thoughts to a mistreated Morpheus. Since people spread to a region, consume the regular assets and, to make do, should spread to another area, Smith says we are not vertebrates but rather infections, the main other animal that acts that way. In the build, Neo and Trinity get weapons. Neo fights Trinity. "Nobody has at any point done anything like this." "That is the reason it will work," he answers. Morpheus still can't seem to break, and Smith asks different specialists for what reason the serum isn't working. "Perhaps we're posing some unacceptable inquiries," answers one. To that, Smith orders different specialists to abandon him with Morpheus. Smith eliminates his headphone and his glasses and trusts that he can't stand the grid, this zoo, this jail. Smith concedes that he should escape this reality. He can't stand the smell. He's certain that some component of the people will come off on him and that Morpheus holds the way into his delivery. Assuming that there is no Zion, there's no requirement for Smith to be in the framework. "You will tell me, or you will pass on." Down the stairs, in the anteroom, Trinity and Neo enter, vigorously equipped. They shoot their far beyond the watchman and a gathering of warriors and advance into the lift. Specialists Brown and Jones go into the cross-examination space to find Smith with his hands actually fixed on Morpheus' head. Smith looks humiliated and bewildered, and the others educate him concerning the assault happening ground floor. They understand that the people are attempting to save Morpheus. In the lift, Trinity arms a bomb. The two of them move through a seal to the lift rooftop, joining a clip to the lift link. Neo says the spoon doesn't really exist before he cuts off the link with a couple of shots. The stabilizer drops, pushing Neo and Trinity vertical. The lift tumbles to the entryway, detonating upon effect and filling the floor with flares. The specialists feel the thunder of the blast and the sprinklers come on in the structure. Track down them and obliterate them, Smith orders. On the rooftop, a helicopter pilot is calling Mayday as Trinity and Neo take out the troopers there. Specialist Earthy Colored assumes control over the pilot and shows up behind Neo. Neo shoots a few rounds at the specialist, who evades them and pulls his own weapon. Trinity shouts Neo, "Help." However, it's past the point of no return. The specialist starts to shoot. Rather than being shot, Neo avoids the majority of the disasters, however two of them scratch him. As the specialist approaches Neo, who is lying on the ground, he levels a kill shot, yet Trinity shoots him before he can discharge. Trinity wonders about how quick Neo has recently moved. She's never seen anybody move that rapidly. Tank downloads the capacity to fly the helicopter to Trinity, who can now direct the airplane. Trinity brings the helicopter down to the floor that Morpheus is on, and Neo starts shooting at the three specialists. The specialists rapidly fall and Morpheus is separated from everyone else in the room. Similarly, as fast the specialists take over different troopers positioned close by. Morpheus breaks his bonds and starts to rush to the helicopter. The specialists fire on him, hitting his leg. Morpheus jumps, however Neo understands that he won't take the jump and hurls himself out of the helicopter, a well-being saddle connected. He gets Morpheus, however Specialist Smith shoots the helicopter's water-driven line. Unfit to control the helicopter, Trinity inexplicably gets it sufficiently close to drop Morpheus and Neo on a roof. Neo gets the security line as the helicopter falls towards a structure. Trinity cuts off the well-being line associating Neo to the helicopter and bounces on it herself as the vehicle crushes into the side of a structure, causing a peculiar wave in the texture of the structure's world as it does. On the boat, Tank says, "I knew it, he's the one." Neo takes Trinity dependent upon them. "Do you trust it now, Trinity?" asks Morpheus as he moves toward the two. Neo attempts to let him know that the Prophet let him know the inverse, however Morpheus says, "She told you precisely what you expected to hear." They call Tank, who tells them of an exit in a tram close to them. The specialists show up on the housetop yet find just the security saddle and line. However Specialist Smith is rankled, the other two are fulfilled. A follow has been finished in reality and the Sentinels have been dispatched to go after the Nebuchadnezzar. In the tram, they rapidly find the telephone stall and Morpheus exits out of the network. A wino watches this happen. On the housetop, Specialist Smith secures to their whereabouts through the wino and appropriates his body. In the interim, as the telephone rings, giving Trinity's leave, she trusts to Neo that all that the Prophet has told her has worked out, with the exception of a certain something. She doesn't get out whatever that thing is and gets the telephone similarly as she sees the oncoming Specialist Smith. Smith breaks the earpiece of the telephone. It's unthinkable for Neo to leave there now. Rather than running, which Trinity begs him to do as she looks on from the boat, Neo goes to confront Smith. They void their weapons on one another, neither raising a ruckus around town. They then move into close battle, exchanging blows. Neo compasses Specialist Smith's head, breaking his glasses. "I will appreciate watching you kick the bucket, Mr. Anderson," says Smith. They exchange a few deafening blows with Smith hitting Neo so hard he throws up blood in the grid and in the seat on board the boat. "He's killing him," says Trinity. Neo gets back up, sets himself and entices Smith to begin once more. This time Neo conveys destroying many blows. "Be that as it may," Smith counters, tossing Neo into a wall then, at that point, pounding him with body blows. A breeze from the passage flags that a tram train is drawing nearer and Smith has a mischievous idea. He tosses Neo into the metro fines then, at that point, drops there himself. He puts Neo in a wrestling hold and, in the sparkle of the approaching tram says, "That's what you hear, Mr. Anderson. That is the sound of certainty. It is your passing. Farewell, Mr. Anderson." "My name," he answers, "is Neo." Then, at that point, with a strong jump, Neo pushes them to the roof of the passage. They fall down and Neo reverse flips off the tracks, passing on Specialist Smith to the approaching train. Neo heads for the steps, yet Smith has previously appropriated another body and rises up out of the entryways of the train. In the interim the Sentinels have shown up to go after the Nebuchadnezzar. There are 5 of them and they are shutting quick. Morpheus advises Tank to charge the EMP. Trinity reminds Morpheus that they can't utilize the EMP while Neo is in the grid. "I know, Trinity, sit back and relax," says Morpheus, "he will make it." Back in the roads of the network, Neo swipes a cell from a close-by suit. He refers to Tank as, "Mr. Wizard, get me the damnation out of here." He races through a jam-packed market while specialists proper bodies both ways. They force Neo down a dim back street. He kicks in an entryway and races through a high rise where the specialists proper more bodies, including that of a sweet minimal old woman who tosses a blade at Neo as Specialist Smith. Neo jumps down into a heap of trash with the specialists close behind. On the Nebuchadnezzar the Sentinels have shown up. They start to destroy the boat. In the lattice, Neo shows up back at the heart of the city lodging. Tank advises him to go to room 303. The specialists are in a real sense at his heels. The Sentinels break the body of the boat. They are inside. Trinity, remaining close to Neo's body in the seat, beseeches him to hustle. Neo arrives at room 303 and enters. He's promptly shot, point clear in the stomach, by Specialist Smith. Smith discharges his magazine into Neo's body. Neo downturns to the floor, dead. On the boat, Neo's important bodily functions drop to nothing. "It can't be," says Morpheus. Specialist Smith educates the others to check Neo. "He's gone," one answers. "Farewell, Mr. Anderson," says Smith. The Sentinel's lasers are starting to slice through the significant pieces of the air cushion vehicle. Trinity hangs not without a knockdown, drag-out fight. "Neo," she says, "I'm not apprehensive any longer. The Prophet let me know that I would experience passionate feelings for and that man, the man that I adored, would be the one. In this way, you can't be dead. You can't be, since I love you. You hear me? I love you." She kisses him. In the seat, Neo unexpectedly relaxes. In the framework, Neo wakes up. "Presently get up," orders Trinity. The specialists hear Neo assent behind them and they open fire. "No," Neo says tranquilly, lifting his hands. He stops their slugs in midair. They drop innocuously to the floor. "What's going on?" asks Tank. "He is the one," says Morpheus. Back in the grid, Neo can recognize the truth about things, green flowing code. Specialist Smith is incensed. He rushes to Neo and assaults him. Neo blocks Smith's blows easily before he sends Smith flying with one all-around set kick. Neo then jumps into Smith's body and appropriates him. Smith's shell detonates in an ocean of code and Neo is all that is left, the walls locking in waves as they did when the helicopter crashed. Specialists Brown and Jones take a gander at each other and take off. The Sentinels are currently completely in the boat. They are right above Trinity and Morpheus. Back in the grid, Neo runs to the ringing telephone in the room. Morpheus must choose the option to connect with the EMP. He does and the Sentinels fall inactive to the floor. Neo has successfully returned. He kisses Trinity. The screen is dark. An order brief shows up, call trans select, got. Then, at that point, transporter oddity, follow program, running, as the network of numbers shows up again an advance notice shows up, framework disappointment. Over everything is Neo's voice, "I realize you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're apprehensive, you're anxious about us. You're anxious about change. I don't have a clue about what's to come. I didn't come here to let you know how this will end. I came here to let you know how it will start. I will hang up this telephone, and afterward I will show these individuals what you don't believe they should see. I will show them a world without you. A world absent of any guidelines and controls, without lines or limits. An existence where the sky is the limit. Where we go from that point is a decision I pass on to you." In the network world, Neo hangs up the telephone. He takes a gander at the careless masses around him, puts on his glasses and afterward gazes upward. From high over the city we see him take off. The story is gotten in the Framework Reloaded, 2003, the second of 3 network motion pictures.